All right, today's workshop will be facilitated by Vanya Garabedian, an LCSW therapist, trainer, and CEU provider with expertise in healing-centered care, ethics, cultural humility, and clinical supervision. Vanya is known for creating intentional, shame-free spaces where providers can do the hard work of self-reflection, deepen their awareness, and explore how their identities, values, and lived experiences show up in clinical spaces. Her workshops offer opportunities to unpack, reflect, and build the skills needed to navigate healing spaces with greater integrity and cultural responsiveness. With a warm and grounded presence, Vanya invites participants to engage meaningfully, balancing insight, accountability, and compassion. With that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Ms. Vanya.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. As Sabrina said, my name is Vanya Garabedian. I'm a therapist here in Albuquerque. I love what I get to do, and I am always privileged to be asked to facilitate something for whether it's one of my own workshops or for a company that asks me to come in, like in Vive. Yeah, so I'm super excited to be here. I want to emphasize the please, please, please take care of yourself. That is number one. If you need to write, draw, color, get up and move, dance, whatever you need to do that, I mean, if you dance, maybe turn your camera off so it's not distracting for others, but whatever you need to do to support your nervous system and being present today. It's super important to me that the spaces that I facilitate, we do the best that we can to create inclusive spaces. We do the best that we can to create an environment where people are not afraid to take risks and be vulnerable. You will get to see my fallibility as an example of your messiness is welcome here. Like you don't have to have the right answer in order to say something or ask a question. There's no dumb question. And with that also being said, if you're somebody who's really comfortable speaking up in workshops, I'm going to ask you to pause before you speak. So those that are typically quiet and have a harder time speaking up have an opportunity to speak up. If you are somebody that it takes a minute to raise your hand or ask a question or say something, I would like to encourage and support you to challenge yourself a little bit to speak up. Everything in my workshops is challenged by choice, which means I'm going to challenge you and you also get to have a choice. So if you say no, your boundary will be respected. I respect the no, and I encourage people to challenge themselves a little bit. With all of that being said, let's get into the content today. Next slide. So we're going to go through these 3 learning objectives, and you'll see the workshop is created in the section 1, section 2, section 3 to help not only you, but also me follow the content. So we're going to go over how we identify signs of vicarious trauma within ourselves. We are going to assess the debriefing practices that we have at the different places we work for emotional safety. A word about safety, we are not the ones who get to decide what is safe for the folks that we support. We get to do the best we can to have an inclusive environment so people can let us know what they need in order to be supported and feel safe. And you're going to leave with a team wellness plan it's going to be a draft, and I'll emphasize that a little bit more later. The whole idea today is about bringing in the entire team. It's not just about one person, it's about an entire unit of people. So you'll be leaving with that today. And next slide, please. So for the first one, are people familiar with the concept of vicarious trauma? Sometimes I make assumptions that when I'm doing workshops, people know what I'm talking about, and they do not. So can we,
Both working on it. Sorry.
next slide? When we're talking about vicarious trauma, first, if we can really normalize it, It is a byproduct, maybe that's the most effective word, of the work that we do. We are human and we serve and support people who are hurting and in a place of suffering. And it would actually be inhuman for us not to be affected by that. We can live in a culture, we live in a culture and society, and depending on your own community norms, it may the messaging sometimes can be, what is wrong with you? Why can't you handle this? Like, what do you mean this affects you? That sort of thing. I really want to normalize that. I would suggest there's actually the abnormal response is to not be affected by the people that we support through their process. You will notice I use the words the people we support, the folks we work with, the person in front of you. Sometimes I still say client. It's a process of I continue to work on for myself to use more depathologizing language. Technically, people are coming to us for a service and they are paying for it, which makes them a client. And there are rights and things that come along with that that are really important. And how do we also see that they are a human being, a person versus a number? Next slide. Vicarious trauma, it shows up in the body. It can show up in your thoughts. It can show up in your behaviors. It can show up in your beliefs. Often, and I do this myself, I think of it as for me, and I suspect for everyone, for people, you're going to experience it in the way that you experience it. For me, it often shows up in my body first. Like I will be like, oh gosh, my body hurts before I have had an opportunity to take a step back and be like, oh, I've had a particularly heavy week with a lot of folks in my office with carrying a lot of pain. Maybe that's a signal for me to look at what I might be carrying. For some folks, it might be in thoughts. Uh, I might see it in my thoughts when I am tired or I haven't had a vacation in a while, where I'm just like, I have thoughts of, oh my gosh, I'm just going to admit this because I know I'm not the only one. Where I have thoughts like I'm like, oh man, I just don't have the time for this. I don't have the energy for this. I'm not saying it to the person. I'm in the room with them and I am having these intrusive thoughts that go against my values and they're more in alignment with I am just exhausted and I don't want to be here. That's a signal. For behavior, oh my gosh, I can't be the only person that loves ice cream for dinner when I've had a hard week. For me, that's what it looks like in behavior and in our beliefs. When I start feeling hopeless, like I don't want to do this anymore, because I love what I get to do. So if I start thinking, I really don't want to do this anymore, that's a signal. What I hope people hear in all of this is how do you start recognizing what are the things that show up for you so you can recognize when it's happening, and then also use it as information versus as whatever judgment may or may not come with it. Some people might have positive judgments or negative judgments. Whatever the judgment that comes with it, if we can kind of neutralize it and make it neutral information, our system is giving us to let us know we need to take a step back and support our own system. Next slide. So when we're talking about the body, it can show, this is not an all-inclusive list. You can add to it or take away from it, whatever works for you. We're actually going to go through a checklist together. It can be fatigue. It can be a quick startle response, hypervigilance, somatic tension. You might have a hard time sleeping. You might sleep more. Some people will find that they're sleeping 14 hours where they normally sleep 8, or someone might find they're not sleeping at all. Oh, also in your dreams. Next slide. In our thoughts, the intrusive images of clients' content, difficulty concentrating, cynicism or hopelessness, a distorted sense of safety or threat. Next slide. Behavior. If you find yourself withdrawing from colleagues or loved ones and you are not naturally an introvert who enjoys a lot of time by yourself. Increased errors or second guessing. We start doubting ourselves. Dreading going into work that you once found meaningful, or maybe overworking, putting in those 60, 80-hour weeks, or disconnecting entirely. Like you're there just kind of going through the motions, but there's no real, uh, you're not consciously, intentionally aware of what you're doing. You're on automatic. Next slide. In our beliefs, loss of meaning and purpose, our shaken belief in people or systems. And a note about that, I do want to call out and identify our systems. So many of them are broken. So not believing in a system that is not effective or has been created in a colonized,
son
racist
rotos. Así que
system is not the same as not believing in the system, like a shaken belief in a system that you have found helpful or working. So I do want to identify that. Some of our systems could use a lot of questioning, but a shaken sense of belief in the people that you're working with. Difficulty trusting or feeling safe. Maybe you used to trust the team that you worked on and maybe you don't anymore. And also, I want to identify some teams may not have an environment that supports you being able to trust and relax and be able to do what you need to be present and feel safe. A changed sense of future, a real quick self-check. And I like to be really impulsive and not have everything planned out in my life. So if you ask me where I see myself in 5 years, I'm not going to be able to answer that. Not because I don't have a sense of the future, because, oh my gosh, I don't know. Let's see where it goes. This changed sense of future would be, I can't see myself in 5 years. And if you're somebody who typically has a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, and you just do not anymore. Next slide. Something to be aware of when we're talking about so much of this is the cultural complexity. Vicarious trauma is a Western concept, and awareness is culturally shaped. So when we're working with people from different parts of the world, the community, right here in New Mexico, we have such a rich mix of folks from different backgrounds, to remember when we're speaking to this that you may be here today and you're like, what the hell is Vanya talking about? There's no context for me with this and what this is too. So to take that into consideration. Next slide. Some of those outside of the Western concept could be a collective community-based belief. Distress of one person is a disturbance on the whole versus an individual experience, and healing is not individual. It may be a spiritual and or moral injury based. Cost of witnessing suffering is understood as a wound in a relationship with the sacred, with the moral order, or with one's sense of right and wrong. Effective debriefing, effective supporting makes room for the potential different frames without keeping it confined to one specific definition and belief system. Next slide. And awareness is culturally shaped. What is noticed, felt, and named for, or not named for one person may be completely different for someone else. Some providers will track distress in their body. Others will experience it as a relational rupture, spiritual weight, or a shift in sense of obligation to their community. Some will not name it as distress at all. I don't know if y'all know those people who are like, are you kidding? There's no stress here. And I have a family member that's like that. I don't experience stress. I don't know what you're talking about, as I'm watching them behave in what I interpret as very stressful ways. And sometimes I have to slow myself down and think, maybe this isn't stress for them just because I identify it as stress. So to keep that in mind, not only for the folks that we're supporting, also for ourselves. And keep that in mind through this whole workshop today. What I am sharing with you is a collective of experience, research, and things that I'm passionate about. It is by no means all-inclusive list of totality of all of the things. So keep that in mind. You may have a completely different understanding of all of this, and that is also okay and welcome here. Next slide. So the first thing we're going to do today, your first handout is activity, my VT profile. So I would like folks to take a few minutes. I think we said 5, 2, 3, 4 minutes. If one of the invite folks could tell me or share with folks how much time we said we would take on this. To go through this, don't think about it too much. Check off any of these experiences that you notice within yourself, and then give some thought, sit with it, and answer the 2 questions at the bottom of the page. We're going to do this individually. This is for you. You will not be forced to share about it. You can, if you like, there'll be an opportunity for 1 or 2 people to speak to it. So you can be as honest and as vulnerable as you like with yourself. So with that, I'm going to put myself on mute, and we're going to take a few minutes to fill this out. Any questions before we do that? I'd like to welcome folks back to this larger attention of the group. I put some questions for self-reflection in the chat. Could we actually take the slides down for a few minutes? Thank you. So I am curious if there is anything that someone would like to name that came up for them. We have time for 1 or 2 folks to share. You don't have to. And you can either speak to one of these questions in the chat, or the questions on the sheet, or something that you just noticed. You can just go ahead and unmute and speak up. I see in the chat behavior. Thank you. Yeah, I do not want to mispronounce your name. I see your hand up.
Deja vu?
Deja vu. Oh, just like it looks. Like I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, no way, that's correct. Okay. I love it. Welcome. What did you notice?
So are we going over what we marked or what we wrote?
What you're comfortable with sharing. So it can be what
Okay.
you marked, it can be what you wrote,
Okay.
something that came up.
So I work in Lordsburg. I work for a nonprofit spin supporting people in need. And so I am the only one that works in Hidalgo County. So we have a Luna County, Grant County, we have 3 different locations, but our population is so small that it only usually takes one of us to be able to do what we do, and we do it all of it. We do documentation recovery, we do mental health IOP. We just do every single thing that a CCSS can do, and now I am a peer support. But lately, when I first started, I'm going on my 3rd year here. When I first started, I was all in. I was staying late, doing all the things, and all of the things. So lately, what I've been noticing is that I guess the signs that have showed up first or shows up more often is overworking and carrying the responsibility for others. I often feel responsible for helping clients navigate the difficult systems and crises, and I have difficulty leaving work at work. So that is something that I have a hard time doing, is being able to shut it off when it's time for me to go home, because I work so closely with our population that is so often overlooked, and I myself am a peer support because I've actually been there, 20 years ago, I found myself in similar situations, and it's taken so long for me to overcome all that. So yeah, I guess I care so much and I want everyone to succeed. So my mind just keeps going. After I leave work, I'm thinking of ways that I can help so and so navigate, and then wishing that I can help them more than what our resources offer. So I'm and my mind's constantly going, how can I file? Can I do something else? Can we get a grant for this? Can we, so it never shuts off for me. So today's training is important for me because I often overlook my own needs because I'm helping others.
Thank you so much for sharing, Deja Vu. And I really want to normalize what you're speaking to. I also want to identify it is a privilege to get to take a break and space for ourselves. So with that in mind, first of all, thank you for the work that you do. It sounds incredible. community mental health is what I heard you describing. Is that accurate?
So I do mental health IOP, so intensive
IOP?
outpatient. Yes, I have
Okay.
IOP here. Case
That is,
management, all the things.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole spectrum. That is a lot.
Yeah.
I really want to normalize what you're describing and what it might look like to use your experience and these things that you are noticing as information, and what does it look like, even if it's just a moment, to give yourself a step back. Sometimes, like, I
Yes.
drink a lot of water all day long, not just because apparently, like, I mean, I know it's kind of a newer phenomenon that we didn't all know we were so dehydrated and have to drink water so much, which I think is kind of funny. But also, so I have a real reason to step out of my office, go to the bathroom, and fill up my water. And in that, well, just a small tip and trick, if it's helpful and useful for folks, please use it. In that one moment, I can take a breath, I can help myself recenter and come back. And then in the larger picture, if we can take time off, if we can be a part of a supportive team, there's so many aspects. Leaning into whatever
Yes.
people's cultural beliefs are, if you have spiritual beliefs or non-spiritual beliefs. I want to speak to one thing. Thank you, Deja Vu. I
You're
love
welcome.
I do want to speak to something that I saw in the chat real quickly, somebody talking about it being countertransference. And I really want to normalize transference and countertransference. I grew up in a generation being taught that if we have it, we need to get rid of it. I don't know how they're speaking to it now in the educational system, and I want to normalize it is a continuous thing that's happening. It's very human for us to project, interject, take on all of these things with folks. The piece that becomes important for us as providers is paying attention. And I mean, I would suggest as humans in general, how do I pay attention and notice when it's happening, how it's happening, take a beat, take a pause. What is this telling me? Is it useful? Is it not useful? To really depathologize the experience of our nervous systems interacting with each other. Even though we're on Zoom, we're interacting with each other, and there's transference and countertransference bouncing all over the place just because we're human. So how do we normalize that in a way where it gives us room and space to slow down, breathe, notice? Notice I'm responding to this person because they remind me of somebody that I had a great time with 20 years ago. So I'm overlooking a lot of things. That would be a beautiful example of countertransference because they remind me of somebody I really like. How do I slow down and be like, okay, wait, is this something I need to be paying attention to? Or maybe it's somebody that reminds me of somebody I don't like, and now I don't like them. So it's information. Can we bring the slides back up? Thank you. And next slide, please. Yes, I just saw the beliefs and perception changes based on the stressors and behaviors. Absolutely. And if we can, we're moving on to objective 2. Next slide. I am going to ask y'all to look at the different spaces and places that you work and assess. This is just for you. If you would like to share it, you can. I just give people time and space to have a moment to look at, what are we doing where I work? Is it helpful? Is it useful? Is there something that could be shifted or changed? Or is it just amazing and I'm so lucky to be here? So what we're talking about when we're talking about debriefing practices, and this is something well, I am speaking in generalities. I was not taught this, and I haven't been taught this in any clinical specific training unless I sought it out. And it tends to be first responder trainings in spaces and places like that. Like when I worked at an inpatient facility for folks, we had debriefing trainings because things would happen on a regular that were pretty intense to walk through. So if you've had it, fantastic. You are already ahead of the game. And if you have not, this is an opportunity to take a look at that because this is something that most teams don't do really well. It is not venting. Venting has its place, not saying we don't get to vent. It is not the same as processing. And today I'm going to hopefully introduce you to a healing-centered debriefing frame, which is honestly, I've been doing a lot of research and studying, and I'm just I really enjoy the healing-centered framework for practice and healing. So when I'm designing these things, I'm putting together things based on that framework, and I'm happy to talk to people about what that is at another time, whole different workshop. So we're going to be looking at a healing-centered debrief and what that might look like. Next slide. So when we're talking about venting, again, has its place. It's releasing pressure. It's real. It's necessary. It does not move us through the experience, though. Processing actually moves us through the experience that happened, and it requires support, inclusivity, structure, trust, time to be able to do that. The nervous system needs something specific in the first hour after a hard event. It does not want to be alone. And when I'm saying it, I'm talking about our nervous systems. It does not want to be alone with it, not to process it perfectly, not to report it, just to not be alone. It does not mean if you're someone, so I'm thinking about my sister. I was just on the phone with her this morning, and my older sister, she doesn't like to talk about emotions and feelings. So for her, if she goes through something really tough, she might just want to sit in a room with folks and not say a word. That is okay if we can normalize. It doesn't mean you have to talk about things. And me and her joke about it all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm the expressive one. She's like, I know, and I'm not. It doesn't mean her system will not benefit from being in a community after a hard thing. And it also doesn't mean you have to share. Next slide. So when I'm speaking to a healing-centered debrief, and this is just to name it, this comes from Sean Ginwright, 2018 research that he did working with marginalized communities, marginalized youth, actually. And he noticed one of his youth said, I am more than my trauma. And I'm more than the thing that happened to me. I'm not remembering the exact quote. And he had a light bulb moment because he was talking about the biology and what happens in the brain when we experience trauma, a very trauma-informed approach. Also important, it's not complete. So this is where I bring in healing-centered. I like to give him credit. And he actually comes from the decades before him of social justice and healing-centered work that was happening before he's building on that. So this isn't original, and this is my interpretation of what a healing-centered debrief would look like. So this is a Vanya list. So there will be a ground. It will bring the group into the present moment together. So like a grounding piece. It could be as simple as a breath and noticing your feet on the floor, noticing your butt on your chair. You want to name it, name what happened without overanalyzing it. Just name it. Wow, that was really stressful. That was hard when that person punched that other person in the face, whatever it might be. Acknowledge the weight of the work and the sacrifices made and resilience displayed. Acknowledge what the team has gone through. Acknowledge that it's heavy. Can we normalize this, please? To not be affected by hard things is an abnormal response to hard experiences. And that people are choosing to be there, whether it's you choosing to be there or you're a supervisor and it's your team choosing to be there, people are choosing to be there and to connect. What does the team need to actually feel connection from each other right now in that moment, in this moment, and restore? What resource, ritual, or support does the team return to? That can be very different for every single individual person. If you can, next frame. Next slide, sorry. Which brings us into the cultural complexity that can be present in a debrief. Next slide. So cultural considerations. Remember, formalized debriefing is a structure. And for providers whose communities have reason to distrust institutions, a protocol may feel distancing or bureaucratic even when offered with care. Can we go back to the slide to the debriefing slide really quick? I want folks to take a moment and notice my attempt here. I'm not saying it's perfect, open to suggestions. This is not a protocol. This is not a, hey, this is step 1, step 2, step 3. This is a frame of characteristics. It's really normal to want to put, okay, first, well, I would suggest pausing and grounding is important first step. And then it's interchangeable. We might name it, acknowledge it. We might have to go back and ground again. Maybe then we need to move to some connection and then back to naming it, acknowledging it. Let's talk about restoration. Wait, we need to ground again. So it's really circular and not meant to be linear. Can we go back to where we were? Thank you, Lotta. I know it's not always helpful what I'm doing. So I want to identify what I'm hoping to present to you. And one of the reasons I did that is because I was looking at all of the debriefing structures that were out there. There weren't any that spoke to me. I take it for whatever it's worth. I looked at them and I thought, oh, this is not what I would like to share with folks. So there are other structures out there, and I welcome people to find what works for them. And I also want people to remember, if you're using a formalized structure, it is a formalized structure. And not everyone in the room is going to necessarily trust what you're even asking them to do. A healing-centered debrief is focused on the community and the variations in the community and what folks will need to thrive and be who they are. Next slide. Which goes into considering cultural differences and power differences. You might be the best supervisor in the entire world that team has ever seen, and there is still a power differential. So to pay attention to that. Some folks are not going to feel so comfortable debriefing with their supervisor in the room. And some folks, if you are the person who is being supervised, how do you respect that within yourself and find spaces and places for you to be able to support yourself? And also across cultural differences as well. Different cultures have different experiences with quote unquote authority and systems. Next slide. Providers working in a second language. When you have providers who English is not their first language, take that into consideration. They may need more room. They may need more space. Maybe you could do the debriefing in their language and whatever the second language is. I mean, the first language. That's an exercise that's really interesting to see how the folks who English is their first language function in a room when the person who maybe it's Spanish is the first language, when it's centered in that. It can be a really wonderful, humbling experience for the English speakers to have to kind of slow down and recognize the enormity of effort that folks that English as a second language are putting into their everyday. Take that into consideration. Next frame. Next slide. Sorry, I'm so in the framework. Neurodivergent providers. This is also a cultural consideration. Our system is very much set up for a very specific kind of thinking type. And I'm not talking about the progress we made. I'm talking about the institutional structure that even the progress we've made is built on. So to take into consideration, not everyone processes the same. Some folks, it might be too loud, easily distracted, too bright. Concrete language is more accessible than a metaphor. I run into that myself quite a bit. Oh my, well, okay, sorry. I can like hijack my own workshops, and I just thought of a funny example. Like I am currently doing, now I feel like I have to tell you all, right? So I'm in aqua physical therapy right now, and they were telling me, okay, so do a circle. I mean, they didn't give me clear for me instructions. So I was like wildly swinging my leg because they said to make a circle with it. And she's like, no, 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 slow down. I need you to do this, 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 this. And I'm like, oh, okay. I need every single step of the way, or I'm going to interpret it what I think the literal meaning is and do that. So to take these things into consideration. You won't always know who the person in the room may be neurodivergent and struggling. Next slide. So this brings us into looking at our debriefing practices of where you are. What I am asking you to do is you're going to go into breakout rooms for about 10 minutes, and you have, oh my gosh, where did I put it? The Provider Wellness Guide handout. And what I am asking folks to do is to go through it and answer these questions: strongly agree, neither agree, or disagree. And give your facility a score at the bottom. Do these in the breakout rooms where you will be talking about them, maybe comparing notes, share what you're comfortable with, challenge by choice, and take a look at the practices for where you work now. And I believe we're going to take about 10 minutes for that. And then when you come back, we will talk about it as a larger group. And before we go into breakout rooms, I want to make space for any potential questions about anything I've talked about so far or this activity. Okay, I believe you can send messages to all of the hosts and the co-hosts while you're in the breakout room if a question comes up. No? Lada, no. Oh, okay, never mind. I take that back.
You can send something if you're having an issue, for instance, like there's like a help button, and we can come in and help you if there's a question in that way. But the chat is only available to you and your team or your group.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Oh, okay. I apologize for that misinformation. So if you have any challenges or questions, please notify us with the help button, and happy to assist. And I'll see y'all when you get back. All right, let's go back to the slides, unless anyone has a question or thought they want to share. All right, so we're going to learning objective 3, which is very exciting. Well, what's exciting for me may not be exciting for you. It's exciting for me. Oh, paid time. Heck yes. I fully support that. I wish I had a magic wand to just be like, "Ding, fair living wage, paid time to debrief," like all of these things. Oh, and we have larger systems issues that get in the way. I think when we treat our team like they are human and people first, and then employees then employees, that truly makes a difference. When I feel valued and understood, it definitely makes a difference. Yes, yes, yes. Doing something fun together. For any supervisors, I know I said we would go on to objective 3, and I see a lot of great things in the chat really quick. How many folks have worked at a place where the boss takes everybody to a meal for Christmas? That's their Christmas bonus. Or a pizza party. How many people are whispering to each other, "It would have been much nicer to have the $15 they spent on my meal"? So think about these things if you're a supervisor. And if you're an employee, is there a way to like present what's actually supported? You see me as a human. Breaking bread is a really beautiful way to connect. And also, not always the people you prefer to break bread with when you've been there for 40 hours. Or maybe you can do it within the 40 hours instead of like, "Hey, when you get off work, we're all meeting over here for dinner, join us." How about, "Hey, we're going to take an intentional 2-hour break on this day at this time. We're going to close the facility so we can all enjoy a meal together." To bring it in to the culture of the place versus this thing outside of it. Figuring how to be inclusive of remote workers, yes. Some places I've worked, we got the special meal at a local restaurant. And oh my gosh, I want to know where you work, James. That's amazing. And I imagine other people do too. Work families spend more time with than during the week. Yes. Okay, a lot of great stuff in the chat. Thank you all so much. And we're going to move on in the interest of time to the design the team wellness plan. And keep it coming, like share with each other. So what I'm asking you to do is to create a draft. I really want to emphasize that point because the whole important piece of this is about bringing the team in, bringing the culture in. So healing-centered foundational team wellness plan is going to be provider-led, not policy-led. This isn't another policy to add on to all that packet that we either give to an employee or get as an employee when we first start working somewhere. You have to go through all the policies and procedures. This is not that, though it may be included in there, but to be provider-led, what does the team actually, what will they benefit from? What will help them feel supported? Your people are going to have to do some research and assessing and honest outside self-assessing. Have y'all seen the ad where they have strangers rate your website and you get the most honest feed? I haven't done it, but I see other people have, where they get the most honest feedback from strangers that know nothing about them. They just look at the website. Something, I don't know what that would look like in our field, but to get some sort of outside assessment of how the facility is doing. So it doesn't even fall on somebody there. It's going to be creating shared language around hard work. We do not all come from the same culture, the same spaces, the same places, the same background. So what I think, God, I run into this with my husband the most. Like when I'm talking about, well, let's do the work. He's like, what is this work you're talking about? I have no idea what you mean. Make sure that we're agreeing on what language we're using and the meaning of that language. It's really easy to get into autopilot and speak in ways that I understand things and you may understand it to mean something else. One consistent ritual your team can rely on. And I am not suggesting a ritual that the person who leads the team decides. I'm suggesting, what would it look like to get feedback from the team? What would be the most helpful ritual? It can be as simple as let's all take a breath together before we go back to whatever's next. And it can be it can be anything you want. It could be, hey, let's I don't know. I like to do art. Let's oh, you know what's so fun? At least for me. So let me just put that out there. Do one of those all right, let's do a story together and one person writes a sentence and the next person adds a sentence and the next person adds the sentence. Just something that everyone feels included in that you can do at the end of every debrief that marks the transition. Transitions are important. Next slide. Some of the considerations, of course, we already talked about provider-led versus policy-led. Not every provider has equal power to initiate change. Providers from marginalized group, newer staff, neurodivergent staff, and those in precarious positions may bear extra risk for speaking up of what they need. Next slide. Creating the shared language. What one provider calls naming emotion may feel formal, foreign, performative, or unsafe. Next slide. What feels restorative is shaped by culture, personality, and context. Wellness rituals are not universal. A brief mindfulness check-in may ground some and alienate others. Plan together and create room to opt in. Challenge by choice is one of my favorite things that I learned when I was doing recreational therapy. Everything is challenged by choice. People get to opt out and opt in or whatever. Next slide. Now the example, thank you so much, Laura. So we're going to go through an example first of what I'm asking y'all to do with the team wellness plan. If you look at the example, And if you have it in a way where you can kind of look at it side by side, it can help. It helps me to go through it that way and do whatever works for you. So the idea is for you, you're going to be in breakout rooms where you get to really get into the meat of what it looks like to create a team wellness plan in your ideal environment. If you could like wake up and have what you wanted, what would that look like? And also, this is a draft to be if you are working in a place that you could take it back and say, hey, I just went to this workshop and I came up with this idea. What do you think? To get the collective input on it. So if we're looking at shared language, we're looking at the example. What language does our team use or need to talk about hard work? The provider, we say that was hard and then move on. It acknowledges something happened. So I'm really speak to what happens. What is the language that you actually use? We want to identify that first. So are you working at a place where you're a provider and they say, oh, that was hard and moves on? It acknowledges something happened, but doesn't create space for it. A supervisor might put something, we don't have consistent language yet. After hard visits or difficult discharges, people go quiet to vent individually. We need phrases that people will recognize, like, I need a debrief. That signals the team. Do people have examples that they would like to put in the chat? Please feel free. An example for what I'm asking for with practice, one consistent ritual our team can rely on. If you are a provider, what would be something that would be helpful? Would it be a 2-minute check-in at the start of supervision where you can say what I'm experiencing without it being a whole conversation? Which, I don't know about y'all, that's hard because I work in a profession where we talk, right? And I got a lot of words. So, and when? Weekly supervision meetings might be a place. And who leads? Their supervisor. And if you're a supervisor, maybe it's a 10-minute check-in at the end of the day. What from your position at your facility could you propose? When? End a shift? Who leads? Rotates monthly. I love the rotating idea specifically, and I put that in there specifically because it creates a sense of no one individual holds all the power. During group supervision, we discuss client hotspots and can provide each other with encouragement and support for challenging behaviors and situations. I like that. And Morgan, people know what you're talking about when you say client hotspot, because that's a shared language of the team, I am guessing. And I can't see you, so I don't know if you're saying yes, that is correct. Yes, right on. Thank you, Morgan. That's a great example of a shared language. The team has decided if we say client hotspot, that's a signal. You can have codes. Hey, I got a code blue. I got a code. I hesitate to say red because people associate that with emergency, and it might be an emergency. Code red, whatever that looks like for your team. And when you get to the accountability part, who is the point person for the team wellness awareness? Do you have a point person? If you don't, who could it be? If you're a provider, talk about what is there. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe you're going to ask your supervisor if we can name someone and offer to do it on a rotating basis. And if you're a supervisor, you might have an idea of who the point person is and have not ever formally identified it for the team. Or it hasn't occurred to you. Oh, man, that would be really helpful. I'm going to identify a point person and make it more explicit. And then your next step, what can you do in the next 7 days? The provider, before my next supervision, I'm going to write down one thing I am still struggling with from last week. And from the supervisor, bring the language question to our team meeting on Thursday and ask what words people already use. So if you're a supervisor, asking the team is a beautiful place to start. And if you are a provider, what might your ideas be that you want to take to your supervisor? Melanie put, we make sure to avoid slimming and ask permission for impromptu debriefing. What does slimming mean? There's an example of a shared language I don't have.
All right, sliming.
Sliming. What does that mean?
So sliming is when you go and kind of don't do a temperature check with your people, and you don't want to cause harm or damage to them. by bringing up a topic that might trigger them. So if we want to debrief and work through, we want to make sure that first and foremost that they're okay with the topic, that they have the time, and that they're ready to talk with us about it and offer support.
I love that. Thank you. And the sliming word, everyone that you work with knows what that means.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. That's an example of shared language. I had no idea what you were talking about. I would be in that, what the hell is sliming? Are we going to get slimed or not get slimed? Sliming sounds fun. I don't know. And that is a decision y'all have made. This is what that means. I love that. That's exactly what we're talking about. Permission is so important. Consent is so important. Like, if I use the example of my sister, when she's gone through a hard thing, she doesn't want to talk about it. It doesn't mean I don't invite her in to the environment where people are together in community, just simply supporting each other by presence. She doesn't have to share, challenge by choice, opt in or out of the debriefing. And if it becomes a point of concern, how do you talk to that person individually about how can I support you? Because I noticed, it's totally fine. You get to opt out. And also, I want to make sure you're getting the support you need. So much of the harm that happens in the work that we do is unintended. I really want to make that clear. I really don't believe there's a bunch of people running around doing harm on purpose. And when you talk to the community that is being served, there is a lot of unintended harm happening. Intention matters very little. So just like the name of my practice, which is actually, it's named Intentional Path on Purpose. Like, I put a lot of thought into that to help people slow down and make intentional choices. How do we bring that to ourselves so we can do less unintended harm? And I'm including myself in that, folks. None of us are perfect. There's always room for movement, growth, and learning. So you're going to go into your breakout rooms. Ghostbusters. Oh, Ghostbusters, old school. The original Ghostbusters. Anyways, okay, I digress. We're going to go into our breakout rooms, and you're going to have, I think we said 20 minutes. Do we still have time to do that, Sabrina? The 20 minutes, or Lotta?
You're about 2 minutes behind at this point, so yeah, close.
Okay.
Yeah, close to that.
Okay. Let's do 20 minutes. And the reason folks have 20 minutes is because I am hoping to support dialogue, conversation. How can I come up? What do we do now? And what might there be room to shift and change? Questions? All right, I'll see you all in 20 minutes. Welcome back, folks. So I would love to hear from whoever would like to share what their room came up with. What does it look like? Maybe a commitment that you're taking away with you today. Was it helpful to come up with a plan?
I thought it was important to come up with the plan. I know in my group, my other two ladies shared information. One of the things that they shared was like a working activity, and I personally didn't agree with the working part of it because you want to get away from work to kind of know people, like they were saying, and I think this is what their team does. They go away from work, but then people are catching up on their notes and stuff. And I thought that was counterintuitive for the plan, because you want to learn about the person or know the person away from work. But there were excellent ideas that the group shared.
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, it's going to be, I really appreciate that because it highlights how every work environment is going to be different based on what the culture of that environment is and how important it is to take that into consideration. And don't use what doesn't work for your environment. I really want people to hear that loud and clear. It's going to be different, yeah?
Yeah, I don't want to write the notes.
Yeah, I don't want to write the notes either.
I think if you're gonna do something like that for the grounding, pay the people for the time that they will be using with the clients, so that they don't have to worry about the the benefits of the notes. So if they're thinking about the notes, they're thinking about the money. So if you're giving them the money during the session, then that kind of eases their mind and it kind of cross cancels it out. And the time that they get back to that's free, they can work on the notes for something else. But if you give them the money right then and there after the session is complete, then they don't have to wait for the claims to be processed. They see that there's an immediate benefit from doing the session of the grounding, and they got the money in the pocket, and they rejuvenate it.
So are y'all talking about like paying people for their time? For the
Absolutely.
Yes, resounding yes. If you are a supervisor in here or an agency owner and you have any control over pay, please pay. Don't ask folks to do stuff if they're not getting paid for it. Because at the end of the day, people are your employees. There can absolutely be things outside of the workplace to do things together that is an opt-in volunteer. I'm of the belief that we don't ever want that to be mandatory. Opportunity to connect outside of work, great. Opportunity, opt-in, opt-out, no pressure. We are going to do this debrief after working hours and you're not going to get paid is not the most fair ask. So
I can't find the place to raise my hand. But I am in a Morgan.
Hi, Morgan.
I'm in a supervisory role. And we get to do one-on-ones with like my direct reports once a week. So pretty often, like we sit down and we discuss those hotspots like I talked about. But that meeting is an hour. Typically, we don't need a full hour to discuss the things that are hard that are going on. So if we have that leftover time, I always tell people like, hey, I'm assigning you the task of going and doing some self-care. So don't shorten the duration of our supervision. The rest of your supervision time with me is doing self-care. Go touch grass, go take a deep breath, go scream a loud song in your car, like whatever it is you need to do to like take care of yourself, because sometimes that hour visit that we have that during the week is the only time we're not in direct care or completing those notes or like taking care of other people's needs. So I really like to give people that time to say, hey, you have 10-15 minutes to just do something for yourself.
I love that. Like thinking outside the box. Yeah. Like how many meetings could be emails? You know, like how many meetings could be emails? And how do we shorten? I don't know. When I was a clinical director, I had to participate in so many meetings that from my view were unnecessary and got in the way of me actually being able to do my job as a clinical director. It was incredibly frustrating. So how can we look at it from that end too? How the whole organization is structured. Thank you all so much. I would like you to consider one thing to take with you over the next 7 days that you might be able to bring back to your place of employment. And if you can, let me be really clear. If you work in a place where you feel it is safe to share your ideas, please share them. If you don't, by no means am I asking you to put yourself in any sort of jeopardy with your job or your role. So it was a privilege to get to be here with y'all today. Thank you for being such a fantastic group. I like to be as accessible as I can be with the caveat that I do have a pretty tight schedule. So please email me. You can call me if you don't mind voicemail, and my website. I do these workshops. I have a free monthly drop-in once a month on Zoom. It's called the Ethical Provider Collective, typically on a Thursday from 12 to 1, typically the third Thursday of every month. Sometimes it has to change based on my own schedule, where you can register. It's free, drop in, ask questions. If you're just looking to connect with other providers, if you want a CE, there's a small fee and you don't need the CE to participate. You can just come. Please join me there. Thank you.